Sequential dependence. Now, I read a lot of evidence-based research to make this training presentation as well as my other ones, so these aren't my original ideas. I know that this exists, and I've researched it as part of this presentation. So, sequential dependence. We're just going to define it and take a look at it because we need to be aware of it from a counselor perspective and from a patient's perspective. So, sequential dependence is an influence of one incidental experience on subsequent experience when individuals perform tasks repeatedly. For example, performing one task trial influences behavior on subsequent trials. Research has shown that in human behavior, there is a development of a cognitive predisposition to produce specific responses. Okay, so when it comes to resistance management, from the client's perspective, there's a sequential dependence on the client resisting. And she'll say those cognitive distortions that we looked at in a previous slide. They become dependent on giving those excuses like, it's not my fault, I'm not crazy, you're the one who's crazy, or if you were married to my wife, you were married to my husband, or it's, everybody's crazy in my family. It's not just, they give these cognitive distortions. Like, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to go to an NA meeting. Everybody there gets high. Or, I'm not going to go into treatment. They say the same old psychobabble, and they're all drug addicts anyway. That works with their significant others or their parents. They've been using these excuses over and over and over and over again with their husbands, their wives, their families, their mothers, their fathers, significant others. And it's worked for them. It's worked. It puts the other person in their lives on the defense, where they question themselves. Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe it is something I'm doing. And our clients will sit there and cause chaos, cause insanity in their families, and get everybody fighting with each other. And then they sit back and watch it go on and egg it on. They'll say things like, are you going to let him talk to you like that? I wouldn't let him talk to me like that. And they cause fights. They cause arguments. To give themselves a reason to storm out of the house. And where are they going to go? You know where they're going to go. And they'll try to do that with us as counselors in treatment. They would love to storm out of the office because you know where they're going to go. So when it comes to resistance and that type of cognitive distortions or the excuses or the resistance that we're going to hear from our patients, you have to understand that they have been doing that over and over and over again for years, sometimes decades, and it has worked for them. So don't fall into that trap of letting them do that to us, to you as a counselor. Remember, you're going to roll with resistance and let that go right past you. Okay, so now think about this. Sequential dependence also applies to us as counselors. Now, I want you to take this seriously. There are no cookie cutter treatment plans. We do not have the same treatment plan for everyone. They are individual treatment plans that we develop in collaboration with the patients. So if a counselor has a treatment style or a treatment technique that works with Joe, Mike, and Tom, and next the next patient is Bob, it's not necessarily going to work with Bob. Okay? Or if what works good with Sally and Joe and Tom may not work with Susan. So we can't, when it comes to directive and non-directive counseling, we can't apply the same counseling technique, the same directive counseling technique to all our patients. We have to be flexible. We have to be fluid. We have to have a lot of tools in our tool bag. We cannot have just, a hammer and a screwdriver and use the same clinical skills, clinical techniques over and over and over again, because we can and could become dependent on those techniques. And when the client doesn't respond to them, we can't say, oh, well, I can't help you then. If you're not going to follow my direction, or I'm going to give you some suggestions and you're not going to do it, then we can't work together. I can't be your counselor. And give them a reason to storm out of the office and say, see, I knew this counseling stuff was a bunch of garbage. So sequential dependence, it's research it if you like. It works both ways. Our clients will become dependent on certain cognitive distortions that have worked for them over and over and over again with their family. Don't fall into that trap. And also as counselors, we cannot become dependent on a clinical technique that has worked for Joe, Mike, and Tom and Sue, may not work for Bob and Nancy and Bill. So we have to be aware of that. Okay, so it's a little insight, and let's move on.